Hi there, my name is Jesse Kindig. This is my presentation on race, class, access, gender, and equity. This is for educational leadership. What do all these things have in common? All of these things must be considered and utilized when using inclusive leadership. I've abbreviated in my presentation as IL. Without having all of these categories on your team or in your committees, you cannot truly lead through IL. You need all of these characteristics to be heard, expressed, and utilized freely to have the greatest impact. All right, so what is inclusive leadership? I found a great video by ENEI, they're a research company. This is on YouTube, the video's here if you want to watch it. They had four main areas of study for inclusive leadership, and we'll discuss those four things. The first one is a robust model and definition of inclusive leadership. The second, the extent in which IL is prevalent in organizations. Third, the perceived impact of IL on the employees in the organization. And lastly, the individual, situational, and strategic context for IL. We'll cover all those things and what they look like in the research they found. Okay, so they came up with a new definition, ENEIs. I compared it to the NUF.org. That's basically what you'll get if you Google search what is inclusive leadership. So you can read that one, but I'm going to talk about the NEI because I believe that is a wonderful definition. Leaders who are aware of their biases and preferences, actively seeking out and consider different views and perspectives to inform better decision making. They see diverse talent as a source of competitive advantage and inspire diverse people to drive organizational and individual performance toward a shared vision. Great. I think it's awesome, and you'll see why. There's lots and lots of stuff to support why that is a wonderful definition. That is what IL is. So the next category, the extent in which IL is prevalent in organization. Employees at all levels of the organization believe that IL has many positive outcomes. Most important, it is that IL must be role modeled from the top to have the greatest impact. Education, you can't have your teachers doing it without your admin. Your admin can't be doing it without your superintendents and stuff like that going down. It has to start at the top and work its way down, or else it'll never stick. So employees of all different branches see these as some of the positive outcomes. Enhanced loyalty at all levels to all employees. The advancing of underrated groups. Enhance an acceptance of creativity from all levels, which is big. Better services for employees and customers. Happy teachers, better work. Better work, better education. Better teamwork. Things get done better and quicker working as a team. Motivation, and much, much more. The perceived impact of IL on employees. Employees have high levels of IL have noticed an increase in performance, satisfaction, and engagement. Those are the big three things that most companies believe make the world go round. And I believe that as administration and in a school, you are running a company. You're dealing with finances, things like that. Obviously, there's a little bit more going on, but education is like a very, very large company. So if you can get your teachers to perform well, if they can be satisfied and they can be engaged in what they're doing, the same thing's going to happen working its way down into the children. Education is going to become better. This is not a groundbreaking concept, but IL is groundbreaking in how they keep those factors high through support, through individual acceptance, through all those things we talked about a little bit ago, instead of micromanaging and exploiting. The context of IL. All right, so there's two different approaches an organization can take based off this information. You can take the explore approach or the exploit approach. Managing employees is not leading them. We learned this early on in this class. Allowing the focus to be on the employees and their satisfaction will eventually lead to a much healthier relationship between the leader, employee, and the company. The explore approach allows for creativity. You develop new services, products, and markets. That's in a company setting. As a teacher, you're being creative. You're developing new approaches to a math program or a reading program, or maybe you're making your own program up based off funding. You're coming up with new products, so you're building new things that help students with their math or their social studies or science experiments. and you're building a new market. As a teacher for a new market, you're looking at different resources outside of the classroom. You're looking for field trips that will be an expansion of what you can do and an assignment. If a principal's putting you under their thumb and not allowing this, and you need to stick to the book and you need to stick to this, you're taking more of the exploit approach, which is focuses on the control of costs and procedures. Okay, so we're focused on, well, how much is that going to run me? How much is this going to do? Why aren't you following the procedures? Why aren't you doing what I said? Instead of, why are you doing it this way? What are you doing that's working? Is this working? So allowing for creativity is the big difference here, and collaboration, and having kind of an open door policy. Okay. What does inclusive leadership look like? My research project at the beginning of the year was based off Jim Collins, and I believe, and many others believe, and my second article later on will talk about it. Inclusive leadership, it has many and almost complete translation to a level 5 leader. I think if you say level 5 leader, I think you're talking about an inclusive leader. They have many of the same characteristics, and they do many of the same things and have many of the same goals in mind. A couple of level 5 leader characteristics: they have humility. They're responsible. They include others. They don't have too much pride. They'll ask for help. They are disciplined in what they do. They look for the best people to work for them, not just who fits the mold, but who is the best person for the job. And they have a passion for what they do. Inclusive leadership characteristics. They have individual consideration for their employees. Each person is a person, not a group, not a class. They are a person with a name. Okay. Individual influence. They influence each individual person. They are inspirational. They're stimulating. They're accepting of all cultures, race, class, equity, all that. They have empathy. They're persuasive. They have great persuasion. They are confident in themselves and in others, which helps build trust, which we'll talk about later. They have foresight, and they are aware of self and others. Okay, so my first article is by Gary R. Howard. As diversity grows, so must we. This article is based around the increase in diversity in our classrooms and how we need to change our view on that. Okay, and how inclusive leadership plays a massive role in how we can change all these. In his article by Howard, he talks about how education is changing, but not just through curriculum. He is addressing how to lead in education as diversity in our classrooms change and grow. He starts by saying that the only way to truly become a leader in your building is through IL. The article then starts by addressing why there is a need for growth in a change in leadership in style. Schools are not the same as when our parents went to school or even when we did. Most parents nowadays view this change in demographics as a problem, not an opportunity, and that's where we have to change. Howard talks about how administration and teachers can change that perception. To do so, he has 5 phases that we must go through in this change. I've never really had the 5 changes laid down in front of me, but after reading this, these all make very, very good sense. Okay. Phase 1, building trust. And we said we'd come back to this. We have to have trust, again, from the top all the way down to the bottom, including our community, including our parents, including our kids. If there's no trust, nothing gets done. And, you see it in your household, you see it in your classrooms, you see it in business, you see it on the streets. No trust, you're at a stalemate. You've already lost. Engaging personal culture. This is his big one. We have to be accepting, inviting, supportive of all races, all culture. That's why I think this was great, because race, class, gender, access, equity, all those things have to be addressed, accepted, and invited into your building. Without that being, you've already lost the war, especially with diversity being in the upper. I mean, our classrooms are changing. So if you don't accept that change, you're never gonna get across to your kids. Confronting social dominance and social justice. Long story short, just like in any part of the world, education is no different. Things aren't always fair. Some of the lowest income schools don't get any income. They don't get any funding. And so how are they supposed to get better books? How are they supposed to get all these things? Well, It's no different. So we must find a way to turn that social uh, injustice into social justice, and showing that just because we don't get the funding doesn't mean that your kid or this school isn't getting what they need. We can make it happen. So we have to change the idea that, well, because we're from a poor community, my kid's already lost. Not so much. Transforming instructional practices. I think this is changing every day and it's turning out great. As your classroom changes and diversity changes and your kids change, so must your curriculum. And engage the entire school community. This is huge. Bring your community into your school. And if your school is not coming to your community, go to your community. Get them involved. Have those parents understand and appreciate this school. If they don't see the point in school, then their kids aren't going to either. Break the mold. Okay, second one, A New Definition of Leadership by Gregory Stopka. This one's pretty cool because he talks about how Jim Collins is this level 5 leader is the same as inclusive leadership. Okay, so he wrote the article, A New Definition of Leadership. His article addresses that there is a change in leadership throughout our country from education to small business, and that change is inclusive leadership. The change is happening due to the change in culture and an increase of diversity in the workplace. I chose this article because he makes the same comparison I made, that inclusive leadership is the same as Jim Collins' level 5 leader. They have many of the same characteristics and same goals. The big idea is that a level 5 leader and IL both want the company to succeed, even after they have left. They are not in it for personal gain or for pride. They are in it for the employees and the company's success. The big roadblock here that he believes is causing this not to happen is trust. Okay, there's not trust amongst the employees. Okay, so he has 3 ways to solve this problem. Managers must be completely transparent with their employees, actively engage the community to employees regularly, and reflect and measure your goals, results to show how you are reaching your outcomes. Be open, talk about things, don't hide it, don't be secretive. Okay, so here's some things we can do as inclusive leadership in our building. These are just kind of quick bullets that I took from a lot of these articles. Okay, we can ask, as a teacher, you can request a very diverse class at the beginning of the year. Build pods and groups of many different types of kids. Let every kid have a voice. Put the power responsibility back on the kids. Show humility towards students. Allow choice in your classroom, and allow for 100% success. As a committee leader, ask for help when needed. All members have a voice. Committees should be very diverse, and many more. As a principal, support employees, not manage them. Have teachers from all different walks of life. Include community, and respect and encourage all cultures, and obviously much more. So here's some ways I can use inclusive leadership right now without being an administrator, without being a coach, with just being a teacher. Here's what I can do now. I can build a safe environment where everyone is heard and appreciated. Become involved in my students' life outside of the classroom, sports, extracurricular. Put responsibility back on the students. Allow for choice in my room. Make groups as diverse as possible. Encourage creativity. Instill humility and acceptance in myself and my students. And build relationships. So here are some challenges. I'll just read what I wrote for some challenges that I see as being an inclusive leader. Being in the field of education is a challenge in itself. Being a leader in education is a whole other challenge. And then being an inclusive leader brings a whole different set of challenges to the table. Because education is always changing, so must our leadership styles. And there is where I believe I find my first challenge. My classroom is becoming very diverse every year. I love it, but other teachers and parents find this as a challenging, and I find this to be challenging and a problem. I find myself challenging that way of thinking every day by showing that so much good can come out from having such a diverse classroom. The second issue to see is being an IL in education is teaching an old dog new tricks. What I mean by this is having many teachers have been doing things their own ways. Trying to tell them that way no longer works and is ineffective is a major problem. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm finding out that subtle and small moves in the right direction is effective. Allow these teachers to voice their concern, but make them think that they have the final say, but in reality, the change is still happening. The final major issue is trust. Teachers must trust that admin, and admin must trust the teachers. Building that trust doesn't happen overnight, but it must happen. Allowing for team building activities, collaboration time at all levels, diverse communities, and a voice will all help in building trust between all levels of the school. So, And lastly, there's my bibliography. Okay, thank you.